Hello there. This is James, and you're watching OneRoyal, and it's live. In today's program, I'm actually, for a change, going to be talking about a completely different topic. A different topic from what I've been, literally how I feel, been talking about for months. Today, we're going to be talking about something completely different. And as well as that, we're going to be talking about how the market doesn't seem to be getting much of a break. Because just when they think things might be going okay, we're going to start looking at economic data again and paying attention to that, like I mentioned in yesterday's broadcast, something comes along and changes all of that. As well as that, I want to talk about a very interesting week for the market we have in store next week. But before we get into all of that, don't forget these little videos are for educational purposes only, and in no way whatsoever should ever be taken as financial advice. I always suggest you do your own research, do your own due diligence, and of course, know the risks at hand before entering any trade. With that out the way, let's get started. So, just when the market was coming to terms with tariffs and this trade war being a reality, with the market coming to terms that Trump will say one thing one day and then he'll say something the next day. And just since the market was going, do you know what? We're not going to pay attention to that anymore. We are going to look at economic data. This is what I discussed yesterday. Then, out of the blue, well, not really out of the blue, we had suspicions, but then all of a sudden, geopolitics hits the market with a sledgehammer. Because earlier this morning, Israel launched airstrikes across Iran, targeting nuclear facilities and killing senior military commanders. Now, understandably, following in this, there is much fear now of a major escalation. And there is a lot of fear that this could indeed spark a broad war in the Middle East. And here's the thing, Israel has pledged more attacks. The Israeli Prime Minister, he said, attacks will continue for many days as it takes to remove the threats. Repeat that, attacks will continue for as many days as it takes to remove the threat. Iran, understandably, has vowed to retaliate, with the Iranian supreme leader saying Israel will pay a very heavy price. Expect a severe response from Iran's armed forces. They also called this attack declaration of war. Now, again, I'm not saying that we weren't sort of suspicious of something this happening. There was rumors of this all day. But again, my point being is, just when the market was coming to terms with tariffs being in existence and the trade war being there, and let's get back to basics and look at economic data, we've got to deal with this. Well, obviously, the US said they haven't been involved, but Trump obviously has, said several things in relation to this. He's actually said to Iran, because don't forget, this Sunday, US representatives are supposed to meet Iranian representatives to discuss, a nuclear deal in Oman. So where that's going to happen now, I don't know. But anyway, President Trump had to say this. He basically urged Iran to make a deal over its nuclear program to avert further conflict. Basically, his little little post, his little tweet, whatever you call it nowadays, just do it before it's too late. Iran, of course, as well, has also threatened US assets in the region. So it's not just Israel they're threatening to retaliate against. It's US assets. Don't forget, the US moved several of its embassy members out of the embassy in Iraq yesterday because they were feeling this sort of thing was going to happen. Anyway, the knock-on effect, when the market was in a pretty happy place yesterday, it was tepid, it was okay. Knock-on effect, though, however, is, of course, we've seen oil prices surge to around 7%. Brent rises to around about $74 a barrel, where WTI, and we'll look at the charts in a minute because it did peak up a bit higher than this, but it's sort of changing hands at the moment of around $73 a barrel, and they haven't been at these levels since January this year, at the beginning of the year. I mean, there is major problems now, major fears. This is why oil prices are surging, because there is great concern, of course, that supply is going to be a major issue, because there is fear of a slowdown in oil tanker traffic coming through the Strait of Hormuz. Because don't forget, in the past, Iran has threatened to blockade this little strait, make it difficult for tankers to get through. So obviously, this is having a big impact on oil prices. And it's not just oil prices, because, like I say, the market was in a pretty good mood yesterday. It wasn't amazing, but it was okay. It was coming to terms with things. But now, because of this recent development in the Middle East, we are looking at pure risk off. Okay, and we are currently seeing a flight to safety, because don't forget, when there is issues of conflict, when there is signs of turmoil, when there is signs of potential recession or economic slowdown, the smart money moves its money out of riskier assets and moves it into, of course, safe havens. And as well as that, we've seen global stocks have started to sink, not just US stocks, global stocks. Started in Asia, carried on in Europe, and it's carrying on now in the US. And like I said already, the market is rushing towards gold, the US dollar, Japanese yen, and the Swiss franc. Let's have a quick look at the market, see how, because I say the US session opened about 13 minutes ago. So let's see how the market stands at the moment. So as it stands at the moment, this is oil. Like I said, again, as you can see, once this attack was confirmed, oil did surge to $77.57 a barrel. Since then, has dropped down. It's now currently trading just under $73 a barrel. But let's have a look at the overall mood of the market as well. Because as you can say, the S&P, who was edging very so closely to hitting another all-time high again, has opened with a gap. It's currently trading just above 6,000 points. Look at this gap where it's opened at. Again, like I say, risk off. The same we can say about NASDAQ as well. Open lower with a gap. Risk off. We can say this the same with the Dow as well. The Dow is negative 453 points as well. Now we can look at the dollar. This is interesting. The dollar index, because yesterday, as we were talking, nobody expected the dollar to recover, because the dollar's been under humongous pressure over the last couple of trading sessions. Humongous pressure. But yes, because of the safe haven status of the US dollar, it's managed to bounce back, and it's currently bounced off a 2-year low on the dollar index. It's currently trading still 98. So it's not like 100 yet, but it has managed to recover because we've got safe haven status. Same as you can see as well as that with the euro dollar as well. Okay, don't forget the euro dollar was trading at levels not seen against the US dollar since November 2021. Okay, still performing very well this year. It's still beating the greenback, but again, slightly down again today. Why? Because the dollar's safe haven status. Same with the cable as well. Now, if we look, of course, to the other safe haven, of course, we have obviously gold. Now, gold again hit the levels on an all-time high. Really, this is really interesting. okay, because it's currently trading on $3,441 an ounce. Again, near an all-time high. And this is a real big, interesting thing for me. We look at a daily, okay? And obviously, those who know me know I'm a big gold bug, and I love gold. And I love talking about gold and looking at gold, okay? So obviously, clearly, we're still on an uptrend here. But this here, I was worried about, looked like a double top. Okay, this was capping it around the $3,440 mark. It's touching that level again. Now, again, of course, if we have a de-escalation of this current situation in the Middle East, that double top or now a triple top could hold, and we could start seeing gold being sold off. If we get any more development, especially out of Iran, if they start to retaliate physically, then that level could be really interesting, because that level could potentially then be broken through, maybe then moving to the real big test of $3,500. So gold, I'm keeping a very, very, very close eye on as well. As for the Mag 7, everything is negative. Tesla down slightly, Meta down slightly, Microsoft down slightly, Amazon as well, negative on the day, Alphabet, Nvidia as well. So, like I said, you know, just when the market thought it was a little bit safer, things were a little bit more clearer, we'll get back to basics and start looking at economic data. We know Trump now. You know, we know what the trade war is. We know what the tariffs are going to do. Geopolitics once again rears its ugly head and changes everything. Anyway, moving on, let's talk about next week, because next week can potentially be a really important week next week. And we'll go through some of the major events happening next week. First of all, we have Tuesday, which is US retail sales. Now, don't forget, this is going to be quite interesting. And I'll tell you why, in my opinion. I think it's going to be interesting. Expectation is for it to come around 0.1. But don't forget, we had the CPI reading this week, and it came in a lot cooler, a lot lower than anticipated. You know, and there was several theories with this, potentially why, because we're all expecting inflation to be really going up by now because of the tariffs. However, it's not, it's cooling down. So, you know, this is going to be quite interesting, because there's several theories why this is. A, for one, retailers and everything's got plenty of inventories. They did it before the tariffs kicked in. Or potentially the consumer is not spending their money so much and they're buying stuff. And don't forget, the US is a consumer-based economy, so they need people to spend their money. So this is going to be quite interesting. So Tuesday is US retail sales, but be honest, the big day is Wednesday. Wednesday is the big day. First of all, you have UK and EU consumer price index. And then we have the big one, and that is the Fed interest rate decision. Fed interest rate decision, where all eyes are going to be on the Fed. Now, I don't think for a second the market expects the Fed to cut interest rates. Whereas many central banks are, ECB is, Bank of England is, the Fed has sat on their hands. They stuck their heels in. They have not cut interest rates. Now, there's not a lot of thought that they're going to do it on Wednesday, you know, but if you look at it, inflation is low. The job market, though is slowing down, is still pretty stable. So they are in a good position to cut rates. So I don't think for a second they're going to cut rates on Wednesday. What I do think is going to be more important and more exciting and more to pay attention to, of course, is the press conference afterwards. What Jerome Powell has to say. And when they will drop hints that quite possibly they will cut rates in September. So that is going to be an important event next week. As well as that, then, leading the week out, we have Thursday, we have the S&B interest rate decision, which is always really good if you're a Swiss franc trader. And of course, Bank of England interest rate decision. Again, the Bank of England cut rates previously. I can see them at the same time not doing anything this time around. But anyway, the big event really, with no doubt about it, is going to be obviously the Fed. Don't forget, of course, this is indeed a live show, so you can ask me questions anytime you like, or what I really like, sharing me your opinions. Let me know your thoughts, what you think about this current situation happening in the Middle East, and what do you think about the market, how it's handling it? What do you think about this trade war? Or what you're trading yourself personally? You're a gold trader, myself, a currency trader, industry trader. Just let me know. Just let me know your opinion, because it's nice to know. It's the whole point of a live show, is so that we can have conversations with each other. We can chat and share ideas and discuss it. That is the point. As well as that, of course, if you're watching me on YouTube, which of course is available on YouTube and obviously the blog, etc. By all means, subscribe if you like. Hit the notification button, so next time I go live, which is practically every day. If you like this sort of content as well, by all means, give me one of these. It's nice to know that you like what I do. As well as that, like I've always said, if you're not part of the OneRoyal family and you'd like to know a little bit more about us, there's a little link in the description below. By all means, click it and have a look at us. And maybe you'd like to become part of the OneRoyal family. The other point I want to make, I notice a lot of people do go back and watch the recordings. They miss the live shows. They watch the recordings, which is great. I love any type of support. All sorts of support is greatly appreciated. And if you are watching the recording, you're not watching my ugly face live, fair enough. And you do have a question or you have a comment you'd like to make, by all means, put it in the comment section below. I will see it and I will reply to it next time I go live on air. In fact, we had a very nice comment yesterday from, I think it was like True Social Official, which was very nice. So thank you, James. So thank you for your lovely comment, by the way. So you see, I do see the comments and I do reply, every time. Okie dokie. Okie dokie. If there is no questions, this is iced coffee, by the way. It's not a chocolate milkshake. I am 47. I'm not a child, just so you know. Okie dokie. If there is no questions, not a problem. Not a problem. Well, that leaves me to say thank you very much, everybody, for coming along and joining me on the live today. I really appreciate it. Hope you found it informative, interesting, etc. And you put up with me, which is quite good, and I appreciate that greatly. So if there is no questions, leaves me then to say, don't forget, these little videos are for educational purposes only, and in no way whatsoever should ever be taken as financial advice. I always suggest you do your research, do your own due diligence, and of course, know the risks at hand before entering any trade. Till next time, every single one of you, trade safe.